Okay, so I'm holding my laptop this morning because my desk is an absolute mess, and I'm kind of trying to angle myself so the sun isn't in my face. But it's a brilliant morning. We're just thankful for the new day God created. So last time I was on, you might remember me saying I had some notes from something I wanted to teach about going into the new year and resolutions. And I didn't actually find that, but the Lord began to bring parts of it back to my remembrance. So I'm going to share this. This is a pretty quick video. And one of the things I want to tell you about this channel is, for you to get the fullness and the richness of what I am teaching, you need to make your way through all of the videos. So a lot of times I can see that we make it 20% or 50% through. But even if you can't sit because you're trying to listen and then you arrive at work or another destination, make a note to come back and watch it, because you don't want half of a revelation. You want the fullness of it, okay? So today's message or teaching, I'm not even sure what I'm going to call it. I'll just add it after the fact, so it may be up there already as you're watching it. But as we enter into any new year, there are people who set New Year's resolutions, goals, all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, right? Some of us say we're going to eat better in the new year. We're going to stop eating fast food or junk food. Some of us say we're going to exercise and start putting that gym membership that we have to use. And that's smart, because if you're paying for it, you might as well use it. But one of the things I begin to hear the Lord say is, do not let the enemy distract you in that. So what do I mean? Many of us will focus on being fit, being successful, finishing school, maybe traveling more is your resolution as you enter into this new year. And those things come to us as ideas, a lot of times because the enemy is trying to distract us from the inner work that needs to take place, right? Around this time, one weekend going into the second week, people are showing, the decreased numbers on their scale, or they're showing us them in the gym sweating and how many miles they've done. You see it on Facebook, you see it on Instagram, people taking chats. But we need to be, as believers, spiritually alert, especially going into the new year, right? So here's the thing. I might have shared this before. I might not have. A revelation about the fig tree. So, you tell me if you've heard this before, because I don't remember. I make so many videos and do so many different teachings and have so many different courses. I don't always remember what I put where. So if you heard this before, just consider this a refresher, right? So we've all heard the story of the fig tree, right? That's in Luke 13, right? It had leaves. The Bible said when Jesus reached it, it had nothing but leaves, right? Because it was not the season for figs. But the issue here is, why did he curse the fig tree? Why did Jesus curse the fig tree, right? He didn't curse it because it didn't have any fruit. He cursed it because he approached it with expectancy, because it had leaves, and the leaves were deceptive. They were deceptive in nature. They would make you think that it had fruit on it, and that's false advertising. That's deception, right? Here's what the horticulturist say, and it's just a little snippet so you can understand the context. It says, the fig tree snoozes its way through winter much the same way as other deciduous trees. Its large leaves drop after the first frost, leaving its twisted branches bare until late spring leafing, right? So Jesus cursed the fig tree. We know that. He said, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. Why? Because deception is witchcraft. Deception is witchcraft. And that's what the Lord began to say to me. There are good things and then there are God things. I think there's a book called Good or God, and it kind of parlays the same information. Just because you're doing something that's good doesn't mean that's something that God wants us to be doing or to be focused on right now, right? And in essence, when we do other stuff, that's good. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with exercising. There's nothing wrong with traveling. There's nothing wrong with going back to school. But when we do other stuff instead of doing the necessary stuff, a lot of times those ideas just come to deceive us, to get us off track. Because if your focus is gym, I have to make it to the gym every day. I have to make it to the gym. I have to walk a mile. I have to run a mile. I have to lift this much. I have to eat this and that and the other thing, which are all good. Where's the time and the focus for the inner working, right? The inner working. When we do other stuff instead of doing what God is specifically telling us to do in a season, and really that's how we should enter every year. Lord, what do you want me to do this year? What can I expect from this year? What do you need me to get ready for? We shouldn't be, let me just pick a word. I'm going to have the bomb year. I'm going to have, an excellent year. I'm going to have a superior year. It's not so much about grabbing a word and holding on to that for the whole year, but you find out from God what he wants you to do, what he has blessed you and equipped you to accomplish in this new year so that you're on track with his will, not our own agenda, doing our own thing, something we think would be a good idea. That's not necessarily a God idea, right? We don't need to set goals because everyone else is setting goals, because that only comes to distract you from the true goal, right? Which is to grow in God, heal our soul wounds and issues, and grow in a deeper relationship with God, right? So when we do other stuff instead of the necessary stuff, we can deceive ourselves into thinking we're healed. We can deceive ourselves into thinking we're whole. We can deceive ourselves to thinking we're delivered, because we watch one deliverance video, and we can even convince ourselves, well, I've dealt with all of my issues. So now that I've dealt with all of my issues, I'm going into this new year expecting marriage. We can't be deceived as believers. There are plenty of examples in the Word, and the first one that comes to me is, what's his name? I can't remember his name. He was the puny one, and he couldn't believe that God called him. But he consulted with God with everything. And when you consult with God and he gives you instructions, you're going to be victorious. So God cares about what we eat, what we drink, and all of that, right? But what's in you comes out of you. And that's why we can't really glamorize the outer to the point that we see no need to work on the inner. So many people are like, I have to have my hair done. I can't, create a video without makeup. I have to do this. I have to go shopping. I need a new pair of shoes. I'm going to this event. I have to look my best. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to look excellent, because anything we do, we should do in excellent. But I'm urging you this year, begin working on the inner. There's some people who have never gone through deliverance. There's some people who have never dealt with soul issues because they've convinced themselves that they've never been through anything. We have all been through stuff. We've all been hurt. We've all been disappointed. We've all been talked about. We've all been offended at something that someone has done or said to us. So we need to make sure we deal with those things. Why? Because they can block us from where the Lord wants to take us. So as you enter into this new year, please focus on growing your relationship with God, because you're going to need him for where this life we're in is going. Okay, so I will be back. I just received a message today, well, last night, from someone who enjoyed thoroughly the Seeing in the Spirit teaching. And I remember God brought it back to my remembrance that I was supposed to follow up and start doing more of that. So if that's you, if you're like, yeah, I've been waiting for you to do more of that because I want to learn about that, leave me a comment, and I will be back. I will be back.